Hey guys, welcome back to Save Me From Myself podcast with your host Ty June. And now today's episode is going to be episode 1 of my new segment called Pocket Sized Episodes. So these episodes are little small, packed up episodes where I kind of bring up a topic I really want to talk about, but it doesn't really extend the normal length of a full length podcast. So these are called pocket sized episodes. So this episode is called Save Me From My Post-Pandemic Problems. Now I know everyone doesn't really talk about this, and so I thought this would be a good topic to talk about. I'm not sure if people are talking about it or it's just not being pushed or presented forward, but I'm sure a lot of people experience things after the pandemics ended. And so I want to be able to bring up my experiences and the things that I've gone through during and post-pandemic that I just recently just kind of resonated with and kind of just hit me without really realizing it. But if there's anything you can relate with, that is cool. If not, that's also cool. But just know that either way, we're all fighting the good fight. We're all in this together and we're just all trying to make it through. I'm not going to go into too much details, but if you do want me to go into a little bit more detail on a later episode, just leave a comment down below saying, hey, more please. And then I'll be able to probably do another roundup of a pocket-sized episode so we can kind of fall back on more information and kind of reroute back there if needed. But let's get into it about my first reason why I brought up this topic.
Good Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Ty June podcast. Well, she might not save me time, she might not save me money, but she might save me from myself. Let's tune on in.
Now, the reason the post-pandemic problems arise recently is because I was invited to a house party for a friend's birthday, or a friend of a friend's birthday party, and I haven't been to a house party in a long time. I can't remember the last time I actually was at a party hanging out with people. So I went to this house party, my friends of a friend's birthday, and it was just the whole concept of like, I'm in a room with people that I don't really know. There's only one person I really know, and knowing me that I'm an overthinker, and I was going to this mode of like, how do I do this again? How do I talk to people? Will I say something stupid? Am I embarrassing myself? Am I even cool enough to be here? Like, what's the deal? And so I'm just going in my head and like overthinking more than I even did, I feel, prior to 2020, where I was able to at least take a moment and realize that I was overthinking, but now my overthinking just seemed to be a little bit more extensive. And this environment made me go into this kind of spiral of figuring out, what am I doing here? Worrying about what people are thinking, like trying not to do anything out of place or don't make it where someone doesn't like you. Kind of like if you watch my last episode, Save Me From My Blackness, where I'm also always thinking about, my perception of others, which I shouldn't care about. But when it came to being Black and having, racists involved, and it's just like, make sure you don't do anything to upset anyone and piss anyone off. So I guess that does stem into that, into even when I'm in a room with a variety of different people and a diverse group of people. Everyone there was in different types of persons, and I was just hoping that I could fit in, and just trying to think, which I need to make sure that I do less of, but still be rational in my decisions and my thinking process. But it just made me feel like, did I acquire social anxiety from being in lockdown? Did I obtain the nervousness of being in public because of that disconnect from the world for that amount of time? And so I think about that, and I wonder if anyone else feels that way too, where just getting back into the normal swing of things, if that actually is affecting you in your day-to-day life. And so like with that, it just made me think, like, with this, isolation feeling that it seems to be brought to the forefront because of that detachment from humans and interactions. And so it comes down to like, I ask myself, like, how do I interact with people? How do I make friends again? How do I ask people to hang out? Like, all this seems really foreign. It wasn't that I was that good at doing it before 2020, but it seems like the isolation has made it harder to implement that or to figure out how to do it when I was already kind of struggling with it beforehand. Now it just seems to be like 10 times harder. Like going through this stuff, I work out more just so that I can just save me from myself and save me from my internal thoughts. And working out does help make me feel better and ease. Definitely at ease is a really good element that is a side effect of working out as much as I do. But I hope there is light at the end of the tunnel. People find different ways for coping mechanisms, like working out, finding a hobby, obsessing over said hobby. I ended up being the one where I was, during the pandemic, working a lot. So I was coping a lot more with the workaholic side of things. So at the beginning of lockdown, I was already working as a grocery stock clerk. And even though I did work some morning shifts, I slowly diverged to doing night shifts only, working from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you want to learn a lot more about jobs that I do or don't do, or insights of the jobs that I've had, I do have episodes, jobs part 1 and part 2, where you can look into my extensive resume of my jobs. But as far as this time, workaholic was the biggest thing for me. It was work, eat, sleep, repeat, and of course some Netflix and YouTube sprinkled in there as well. And it was different. Like, I do thrive on routine, but this routine of this limbo of constant limbo with no change or no wiggle room for much, it was exhausting. I love having a routine, but this just didn't work for me. I want to say it was 9 to 10 months of the same thing over and over again, of just sleeping in the day, working at night, coming home, talking to people I need to talk to, do it all over again. And it just was, it hurt. It felt like a really mental and physical pain of the lockdown and just feeling so isolated from everything. And with that, the lockdowns, going to work, leaving the house at 10 o'clock at night, having those passes that the companies give you so that when you're on the road or out and about, that you can go to work because you're essential. You're an essential worker. You get a little letter so that if you ever get pulled over, which I never did, that you're supposed to be out. And those times of just going to work at night, were already less cars on the road, but going to work at night, it's like there's nobody. And then that feeling of loneliness and isolation hits even more. But it's like no one was on the road. And it was just like, after a while, it became normal, but also like upsetting. So that routine was just so draining, and I hated it. I hate it with a passion. The plus side is they were paying people more to work at night already, and let alone work at night during the pandemic. So I did get the money for it, but at this point, years later, I'm saying, like, at what cost? At what cost did that extra money come about? What cost? Now I just feel so empty after going through all of that. And I don't ever want to do it again. Please, can we? No more new elements in my lifetime. Can we? Please? Okay. And even with that routine, I'm probably not the only one that ended up putting on pandemic pounds. And so you stress about putting on the pounds. And if you're anything like me, back then I would eat my stress and then get mad about the weight I put on from eating the things I didn't want to eat. And the spiral continues. I'm putting on weight. eat food to make me feel better, put on more weight, get mad at why I have more weight over and over and over again. But I work out a lot now, of course, but it's just, again, that limbo with the consciousness of us always trying to figure out what to do next and everything like that. There was no to do next. I wish I would have handled the lockdown a lot better. I did have my roommate at the time, Kimmy. She was there. She was working from home. I was lucky. Like, if I had a job where I had to work from home, I think I would lose my mind. I'm just glad I had an active job and I could leave the house to go to work, because I don't think I could have made it otherwise. I just started going back out again recently. As you guys know, I went to Vegas in June, still hanging out with friends more. And it's just like, how do I do this again? How do I ask people to hang out? Do they even like me enough to want to hang out with me? And things like that. So it just kind of, again, just boils over and trying to figure this all out again. And does anyone else get that feeling when you're trying to ask someone to hang out that you don't know? Of course, it's easier to hang out and ask someone out that you already knew, but getting new people is a little bit difficult. It's kind of like that feeling you get when I always have this extensive memory of the fear or the anxiety driven moment of when you get your lunch tray in middle school and you have to walk down like the middle walkway and you feel like everyone's looking at you and staring at you, which we know they're not, but it's that feeling of like, stop looking at me, stop looking at me. And until you sit down, you feel a lot better. And sometimes you use fast walk or you walk slower to not draw attention to yourself. But I was always feeling anxious, so that does also feel like when you're asking someone new to hang out or can I get your Instagram, whatever it may be. It was just really difficult to address new people. It kind of still is, and I think it's just a little bit worse for me. And with all that going on, I did get August 2021. Towards the end of August, probably at this time as we talk about this is the same time 2 years ago I was home in bed sick. It was a few weeks before my birthday, and so I was pretty much just laying around trying to get better and eating my favorite ice cream in the whole wide world is Magnum, and particularly at this time I was eating the Magnum Pipes that you had to sit out to get room temperature a few minutes, and then you squeeze the container to break the chocolate shell and you whack your spoon at the top to unleash the chocolate shell off the top. And I was eating those religiously and watching Black Mirror. That was the time I finally binged Black Mirror and caught up in watching that, and I'm like, that was perfect timing. And if you haven't seen, there's another season out right now. I recommend it. Anywho, that was really different. Got sick, got better, had my birthday, and lost my job all within that few months. So coming back from the job I was currently at, there's a thing where you have a portfolio, and I lost clients while I was away. And then I was trying to do other positions that were not as, get demoted, but still have a job. And apparently I wasn't good enough for anything lower than that, which I'm still confused about. If I'm here and I'm trying to get a job that's not as intensive, and then they didn't want to hire me any of those other positions. And so that happened all at the same go. I still had my second job with the Harris Teeter stuff and picking up shows at Carowinds and things like that. So it wasn't too much of a upset, but it's the thought of I got COVID and I caught it from my job. I got sick, and I know I got sick from my job. and I get the time off. And I didn't work from home because I didn't have the equipment or the internet to do it in that short amount of time. So I couldn't fully do the job at home. And I come back to losing my job. Wasn't nice, not at all. And so things still go on, things still move on. I'm okay. Everything happens the way they're supposed to. I can't be mad. At the end of the day, I'm okay. I'm not at that job anymore because it was, like I said in my other episode, like a frat house. So it just was probably somewhere I didn't need to be anyway. I don't know about you, but I am done experiencing first time in history moments in my lifetime. I feel like the next 5-10 years are gonna be history making years, and I hope they're for the better. But I didn't get a chance to ask, like, how are you doing? How are you doing mentally, physically, spiritually? Have you checked in with yourself lately? I know it's gonna be hard. I know it's even harder now, but we got this. I'm over this, but we got this. Like, again, the reason I brought up this topic was because I don't recall anyone talking about what they're going through post-pandemic. Hearing people talk about they have like memory fog that they don't remember having, or coughs that won't go away, or gaining anxiety that you never thought you'll ever have. I'm talking about it. Hit me in my DMs if you ever want to come across to me and talk personal about anything, because I'm here to listen. I may not be able to have the best advice or the best answers, but I'm here for you. Going right out of these topics here, I'm gonna bring up some updates because like the term for me, post-pandemic problems, is awkward. Life is just awkward. And in one of my DMs I had a few weeks ago, someone asked me related to the Jobs podcast episode was, what is the most awkward thing I experienced as a server? And one of the most awkward things I remember experiencing is when you have a table and you bring them the check, and then you come back and keep checking to see if they're ready to pay. And then it gets awkward because it's like you're not trying to rush them, and you're not trying to kick them out the restaurant, but then it's like you need to clear this table so then you can get another table and then get more money, wash, rinse, and repeat. And so the most awkward thing is, it's like, I give you the checkbook, you give me the money, I bring the checkbook back. But then don't sit in my section. PSA, when you're done eating and you've already paid your bill, do not sit at that table and talk and use that table as your socializing area. Best bet, if there is room, is just to leave that table, go to the bar. If there's a bar, go to the bar, go let that table be open so that server can get another table to make sure they get tips. And so, tips are important, obviously. And on a side note, if you have a table preference or a section preference, please let the host or hostess know ahead of time. Because another awkward situations I've been in is where I am sitting at a table, and then we get to that table and they're like, oh, well, can I have a booth, and then can we be more towards the front of the restaurant? Well, if you would have told the server that, then we would have made that accommodated, because there's this rotation that goes around with servers to make sure everyone gets equal opportunity. So the reason I'm taking you to this particular table is because it's X, Y, and Z's turn. And so since it's X, Y, and Z's turn, this is where I'm sitting you. But now that you don't want to sit there, I gotta go take you somewhere else. So then that person technically loses out on the rotation in the tables and who gets how many per night. Don't get me wrong, there are times where some people are gonna be wanting a booth instead of a table, and that's totally understandable. Some people's sections have more booths than tables, and that's also okay too. But just know that the awkward feeling of having that person stand there, like, what if that table wasn't clean? That's even more awkward for me. I'm literally also the busboy in one of the restaurants I used to work at for O'Charlie's. And someone was like, hey, can we get the booth closer to the front? I'm like, first off, we walked all the way back here and now you're just saying, can I have a front booth? So the front booth's not clean. So they're standing there in the middle of the dining room while I am cleaning off this table so they can have it. Very, very awkward. They're watching you clean. Got it. Never again. And the reason these podcast-sized episodes were created is for weeks that I have a lot going on and didn't get a chance to do this, the part that I love to do. I had my car towed this week and that caused a lot more issues. I missed time at work and all this stuff, and it just was a lot. But I'm glad you were able to come and tune in with me and hang out with me. And just kind of know what's on my mind. I hope you're not going through any post-pandemic problems, but if you are, I hope you are finding ways to get through it. And let me know if you like this pocket-sized episodes. If you don't, I don't care. I'm still gonna do them anyway. But yeah, keep me posted on all your topics or anything that you want to talk about in the comments. You're always welcome to subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. Look out for new episodes every Sunday. And you can also follow me on all the platforms, Ty June, and SMFM Podcast for all the podcast news and insights and updates to keep you safe. And so this is happening. We're doing this. Thanks for tuning in to Save Me From Myself podcast, the pocket-sized episode. This is Ty June. Thanks for tuning in. You made it to the end. I'll see you next weekend.